Hello, this is 5 minutes or more with the Script Mentor. I am the Script Mentor and your host, Gino Scala. Today we have a very special guest. He is Jimmy Kelly, the president and CEO of Fight On Entertainment. He's based out of Long Island, New York, which is why I have my Mets cap there just to rub it in his face. Are you a Yankee fan or a Mets fan?
I'm not really a baseball fan, but I prefer the Yankees.
Okay, well, there you go. You're on my enemy list. And the company's first feature film, In Critical Condition, a crime action movie which he wrote, directed, and produced on his own, was distributed worldwide. I did see it. It's an excellent film.
Thank you.
Jimmy is also an award-winning screenwriter and director with his current work called Polybius. It's a short film, a horror film, and it's starring the great Tom Atkins. And I say the great because he's been in films and television for over 60 years. Mm-hmm. He probably has the most recognizable face in film today. You probably won't know his name. I'll bet you don't. But he is definitely recognizable, and you've seen him in tons and tons of work. And he's a great actor, and I love him. And he's great in this movie. So he's gotten great. Jimmy has gotten great press from Bloody Disgusting, Dread Central, which is a newsletter that I get, and other popular genre magazines. And here's Jimmy Kelly. Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good, Gino. How are you?
Good. It's great to talk. I'm going to set my timer here because LinkedIn limits the video, so this way I have a heads up as to when it's when we've done enough. So I'm sure my following is very interested in knowing how a first-time director writes his own screenplay, directs it, and then funds it himself in Critical Condition. Mm-hmm. It's basically a crime action mafia, low-level mafia type of movie story, and low budget. But when you're funding it yourself, it's almost every penny you have. And for what you had, for what you used, you really squeezed everything out of every penny.
Thank you.
The cast was fabulous, and so tell us a little bit how that came about.
So I was in my last year of college at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and we were trying to determine thesis films, and I wrote a story about a young girl who's dating a druggie and how she sleeps with a man and then tries to rob said man for the druggie who works for this big time mob boss. And it wasn't really the school's cup of tea. And then I started thinking on the movie, and I was like, there's like a really interesting world here. So I just started building up, like, what were these ancillary characters? Like, who was this Johnny guy? The idea of like this like number two guy who basically has the brains for Harvard, but like is like working in crime. Like, how does he get there? And so I just started building and like how all that would work. And I came up with this idea of like an ensemble piece that would have high production value in what its genre is without costing like a lot of money. And in Winston-Salem is this very interesting city where there's like a lot of interesting architecture, but there's not too many people. So we were able to like very much go guerrilla style and run and gun and be able to get like a lot of like production value in like the tall buildings. And then you had like the more suburban areas, and then you had a couple like warehousey type of places. And then they have a mansion that's a museum. It was a I think it was a slave owner's mansion, but they're like a very like non-for-profit. So like we were able to just go in there and use that as the mansion. And like so there was like a lot of like aspects of it, and the community understands how the film school works. And the film school is constantly a bunch of kids going up to places, hey, can we shoot for free because we're making a thesis film? So they already had like an understanding of that. So then I was like, well, I'm actually like a legit production. What can we do to like make you feel better? And then Jane Franco was supposed to shoot an Emilia Clarke stripper movie, and he canceled the movie, but the strip club was still like slated to have it. So that's how we got like the strip club. Was I found them out. I said, well, you're not gonna get a Jane Franco movie, but you can get this one. So there was like a lot of like
That's
little things that just kind of fell into place.
that's really a brilliant way of working it. Now, you say you were you still a student at that time and just making a personal movie, your private personal production?
So
or
I was basically all of pre-production was my senior year, and then like a month before graduation we like started filming, and then the summer after graduation we completed filming.
So the reason why I ask is because I think that's a brilliant way for any filmmaker to kind of take advantage of a local film school that is, they commonly have students doing this, and just act like one of the students. And you called it guerrilla style, and that's exactly what it is, using a courthouse staircase, outside
Right.
stairs to represent something, something
Yeah,
else.
and you just gotta know, you gotta understand what the rules are in regards to filming and how to get around them. So like we were shooting, there's like the scene where Johnny like walks up to like a building at night, and he's like rolling up his sleeves. Well, when we were at that building, there was nobody there, but there was security. So when security came out, they go, you're not really supposed to film here. Well, prior to that, there's like the shot in the movie where he like throws something out, and it's like just like an insert shot. So I said, oh, we're not shooting the building, we're shooting this. And I showed them the footage. So they never knew about the other shot because they only saw that. So you have to know like how to like weed through a couple things. And like one of the fight scenes we shot in a garage, and I thought the garage was like a public garage. I didn't realize it was a private one. So all of a sudden these police officers on bicycles coming up, and we have like a dude with tattoos and a bat, and they go, what are you guys like doing? Like there's like a lot of noise coming from here. And we're like, oh, well, you see, we're filmmaking students from this college, and we're actually waiting for the producer to take us somewhere, but I figured while we were waiting we were going to rehearse, and it's a fight scene, so it probably was really loud, but we're not doing anything wrong, we're just like practicing, so we'll be out of your hair like anytime soon. So then they pedaled away. I went over to the guy and I said, listen, we're like literally almost done, just like, can we finish? And he goes, I don't care as long as you guys aren't getting hurt. So we stayed there for like 45 more minutes and then ran.
That's brilliant. I love that.
So you have to you just have to know how to do things. But then on the other side of it is we were driving around. We did a lot of car shots, and we were driving through a neighborhood, and the guy kind of looked like thuggy. He had like a ski hat on in like the middle of summer, and like, so somebody called the police on us because they were like, why is this guy driving around like a family neighborhood? So they stopped us. They pulled us over. They see that we're filming, but everybody has their seatbelt on. Everything's good. They look at the guy's driver's license and they go, your driver's license is past due, so you can't drive anymore. I'm like, oh, really? That's what we're going to get? So obviously we had to switch it up. I was like, oh, that's what we get caught on. But,
that's a great story.
Yeah, so I suggest anybody, if they want to go guerrilla style, film near a school that has filmmaking, and then just say you're a student.
And check if in driving scenes that all the driver's licenses are okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because he has a driver's license. It's not like he's like somebody without one. It's just it was out of date and from San Francisco. So like it was just like doubly like, oh, that's bad.
Now tell us about Polybius. I've seen that. I love that as well. Interesting story. Interesting background. Why don't you tell us about that?
So it was really funny. My writing and producing partner, we had done a commercial together, and we were looking at what sort of narrative piece to do. And the first thing he said was, have you ever heard of the urban legend Polybius? And I said, no, what is it? It's about this arcade game. It popped up in Oregon. There's people that claim that they played this weird game. They had these weird side effects. They became really obsessed. And then the FBI came and took it away. Hence why there's no real proof of the game. There's a lot of research on
now. That's an urban legend. It's not it hasn't been verified, right? As a real story.
It depends on like what you look at. It's just a really cool story, and it's like enough. It's not as legit as like the Montauk Project and then Stranger Things, but it's like enough where gamers at video game conventions, somebody always brings like a copy, like, oh, this is probably what Polybius was like. You know what I mean? So we were like, all right, like let's play around with this. And we had actually watched the short film for Saw, how Saw got made. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I've not.
So basically the way Saw was founded was it was a 9-minute short film about a guy who goes to a police officer after like cutting off his hand, and it recaps his time with Jigsaw. And then it got money, and then he did Saw, and now James Wan is like the guy.
Right.
So we took that similar approach where we're like, well, the reason why it works is because there's this tension in this like interrogation room scene, and then it flashed back. So we took that structure, and I was like, let's try to make like a play of these three characters, and then we're gonna fill it in with all the genre stuff and like the video game and the urban legend part, and then we'll basically have like a 5-minute epilogue, and that's how we structured it. And then when it came to the feature, we were like, well, this would make a great act 1 because it sets the scene, it sets the tone, and then acts 2 and 3 would explore, the game itself, who's behind it, and trying to stop it. So,
well, I did like the post work that was done on it. A lot of you had some special effects, right?
Yeah, I actually managed to. I lucked out. My composer was dating a girl at the time who was friends with a guy who did freelance video games. That's what he did, and he was like, "Oh, I've heard of Polybius. I really want to do it." And he gave us a fair price, and he was like, "Oh, so you want like the pixelated old fashioned 80s video games?" I said yes, and he goes, "Okay, I got it." And yeah, his video game effects were freaking awesome.
So you didn't do any crowdfunding. You didn't ask mom and dad for money. This was your money.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, around 10,000? I think you said.
It was 10,000 for Intro Ignition, and then it was 50,000 for Polybius. Polybius had between the production design and the huge crew and Tom and all the actors. Right. That was but that's why we knew we could, instead of stretching our money for like a feature, it was better to confine the movie and then make that the best we could.
Good. And where are you now with that?
So I was doing well pitching the project, then the pandemic hit. And I still have contacts, but everybody's very backlogged with productions. And it's not like we couldn't go out, raise money, and make it ourselves. It's that instead of basically making a movie and then going, what do we do now? I'm trying to get a company to come on earlier to be a part of it. So we're working with them within their contacts. If we decide to go totally independent, I have a list of 30 to 50 distributors, sales agents, and companies that are interested in a final product. So I've started that dialogue at least.
Good.
And we have a couple of letters of intent for distribution. It's more like I feel like we could get better money and make just a much more high quality movie if we have somebody else. And it's not just people going to basically private business owners and like getting little by little money to try to build up a pot.
Now, you've been a regular reader of the Script Mentor posts and newsletter and such for, seems like a couple of years now. Has that been any help to you?
It has, because the biggest thing is like, so I graduated college in 2013, and the way the school worked was you did every discipline your first year, you picked 2 disciplines your second year, and then the school picked what you would do for the rest of your time there. And I was picked as a director, which I'm born to be a director, but part of that is writing your own stuff. And I took screenwriting courses, but for me, because writing constantly is changing and like what's like the accepted spec script is, I like using it as like a refresher. And it's better to just kind of like see certain things, and like you said, like with your rule for like dialogue, length of action, things like that. Those are great tips. Are you going to break it sometimes? Of course, like that's just going to happen. But the idea is to try to keep that so it looks better for producers and such.
Right. And but as someone who is a screenwriter and a director, you don't need to follow any rules. You're shooting your own material.
Right. It's really more one of the things I would love to do is because I just have too many ideas that there's no way I'm going to make all of them, and I keep coming up with more. I would love to sell a couple scripts
Oh, okay.
to, and
And
get my name out there as a
it would
screenwriter.
behoove you to follow some of that advice, and
Of course, and
what works and what doesn't. It's up to you, but
of course, and that's what I like about it is it's like a good refresher course, and I like your structure when it comes to like query letters because I've basically been query lettering for like 6 or 7 years now, and it's not like I haven't gotten replies, but it's interesting what works and what doesn't, and sometimes like changing it up is the way to go. So, and
right.
I like the structure of like the query letters you presented, and they were different. So I was like, oh, like I could try this out.
And
So
don't forget Chuck Hussmeyer's query letter. The Linda
his
takes
was another
coffee.
his was another letter I really like the
Linda
structure.
takes coffee with cream. Yep.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I like the log line structure because log lines change no matter the project, but it's like you need to have the basic rule, and then if you're gonna break it, you have to understand why you're breaking it, how you're breaking it, and if it actually works. Because you can break rules, but you can't break them if you don't even understand them.
right.
If you're just like, oh, I'm gonna do 5 lines of dialogue because I just want him to speak, it's like, well,
You know.
you know,
Well, that pretty much wraps up this interview for LinkedIn. I want other filmmakers, budding directors and such, to look for your work, both in Critical Condition and Polybius. I highly recommend it, and also to reach out to you and network with you and pick your brain, and because you're based in Long Island, but you've not stayed there. You've traveled, and you have a very successful production company there doing commercials and things of that nature, which helps fund, I suppose, these other projects. But you have a wide net of. I know Stephen Shore works with you as an actor on most of your things. Austin Fry was highly, he was critically acclaimed in
he's
Critical
another one
Condition.
where
He won a few awards.
Yeah, I actually have another project for him. It's just it's a higher budgeted horror short, which will require puppeteer work. So once I get some money, I'm gonna shoot that with him. He's actually really looking forward to it. It's really funny. I posted like the log line on my website, and he actually like reached out to me without me even saying anything. He's like, I want to do that. I was like, cool, because I was kind of thinking of you anyway.
So let me go. We'll go ahead and end this now. And again, this is Jimmy Kelly with Fight On Entertainment. And thank you very much, Jimmy. And we'll talk again real soon.
Sounds great, Gino. Thank you.